Ty is back this time with a fast demo of the power of his Checklist Pro. It's 40 seconds where he shows the difference of standard approvals and how much you can do with his tool on top of ServiceNow. Armin has created another amazing video of talking about why people may want to be working on ServiceNow and why some folks may want to jump over. And he has a lot of really great reasons. However, it does feel like everybody's saying, come on over to ServiceNow. There's plenty of work. And that's true. But it's not the rocket ship it was when I started. And it's not the rocket ship it was 5 years ago. There's a lot of nuance to this ecosystem of work. With that all being said, coming in with that caveat, I agree with most of the points that Alan makes. And I highly recommend check this video out. There are 3 tools when it comes to automated testing frameworks. ATF, as we know it, is something ServiceNow developed to test how forms look, feel, and work, but also it can test server-side stuff, like checking if a log exists for an integration that you ran to verify it's still working. ServiceNow purchased a company a few years ago, and that brought into the fold, and now it's the ATF Test Generator, or Cloud Runner. But the test generator doesn't work on personal developer instances, and it also doesn't generate tests for catalog items. Enter Regress. Regress is a tool Paul Morris made a few years ago and it's kept up to date. You can change how much it tests by changing the settings within the application. You do have to install it via an update set, but it records what people do like a macro, so you don't have to build the tests individually. You could just go through your steps and save it as you go. It's a fantastic tool. I've used it before, and it will save you time. What are your thoughts on using third-party tools like this to do the testing? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Wimberley of Qvestiq wrote 6 useful apps on their blog. Field Service Management to Performance Dashboard. I know what most of these do, but I think it's important just to call it out. So he also lists software asset management, which can save boatloads of money by understanding if you're paying for too many licenses. Asset management lets you know where you have stuff and if you have stuff. HR service delivery and management is just a silo of work that HR does. Should make that faster for them to process those HR requests. Automated testing framework, this can save loads of time when you're upgrading or customizing or configuring different things within ServiceNow. Performance dashboard is something I haven't looked at. I'll need to investigate that later. Laszlo Bala posted on ServiceNow's community an article which brought this back up on the news. So I'm going to highlight it again. There's time-limited authentication, otherwise known as passwordless, in ServiceNow. This is fantastic. If you don't have a password, it can't be hacked out of the system. What are your guys' thoughts on passwordless? Eliza posted a different second post. Before, a few weeks ago, she wrote about the Service Portal design guidelines, and now she's writing a Service Portal FAQ, where she answers questions like, are there plans to move away from Angular? What limits exist in Service Portal? And is Service Portal being deprecated? If you want to find out the answers to those questions, check the link in the doobly-doo. Smitri Gupta wrote about 5 updates to Employee Center and Employee Center Pro. I haven't done a lot of work in these different Service Portal technologies yet. However, the 5 updates is AI search on topic pages, taxonomy topics as filters for the AI search page, updating taxonomy topics with new content. And then the Pro edition has enhancements to the dynamic topic microsites editor and enhancements to the employee communication workflow. To me, it's a little confusing exactly how these things are changed, but this is way better than some of the notes that are highlighted by Justin Meadows in his SSH show. That being said, there's a few others that came up that I'm just going to briefly talk on. Ruan Smith posts about how to access data from within a Glide aggregate with a Glide record. Roshan Kumar is posting these 2-second posts about a feature, and in here he's showing the mapping button for Integration Hub when you bring in CSV sources. And Russell Shearer made a short that talks about how to open stuff in new tabs, which can save you time. Swan shared me an article about how ChatGPT can be considered harmful. And I agree that if you take any information in the wrong context, it can be bad. However, we got to take things with the understanding of what the source is. If you're asking ChatGPT or any of these AI things about yourself or someone, it's just trained on data on the internet. If that data was wrong on the internet, it's going to be wrong in the model. It's an autocomplete engine. I don't know what to tell people other than it doesn't have the intelligence. There's other things happening that try to make this more right. Bing is now using AI and including the sources for the content, which is a step in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it's just another tool to try to look up stuff. You might not have the language to ask the questions on maybe how to write automation in ServiceNow. And it will probably give you the right words, like you should use Flow Designer, you should use business rules, or maybe you should use scheduled templates or whatever. But it can still be wrong. But it'll give you a direction. Every time I look at the stats.do page in my instance, I'm always surprised when I find the open source link. Like I forget it was there. I looked at it the other day and I downloaded it. It was over 20 megabytes, 7,000 pages. So I started looking at the licenses that it includes, and I noticed that Kyle Simpson's lab.js is in there, which is the script loader API that ServiceNow provides. Kenzie Dodds contributed to something called Downshift, which is also used in a lot of called combo boxes on the internet where you like type in text in a dropdown. We have those all over the place in ServiceNow. I'm not sure which ones of those use Downshift, but that's very interesting. And that's like, these guys are like doing the cutting edge stuff. If you want to like get ahead of the curve, maybe look at what some of these folks are doing. And then I came across this core.js dependency. There was a bunch of them. And the reason that this popped up in my mind was I read a markdown file on GitHub that Dennis wrote about how he needs help supporting this core.js package. What is core.js? It's like a polyfill for all of the new JavaScript features. Pretty much if you use Babel or any transpiler, core.js is part of that because that brings in a lot of that functionality. But even though many of the top 100 websites on the web use it, there's zero help coming to these folks. It's crazy. Is this a great forum to talk about how a high-performing company can help out the people that build the open source software when they need it? I don't know. Maybe ServiceNow has a play here. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's not the right way to approach this. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. It's a complicated topic, and I don't expect an easy answer. I've been setting my phone down before I go to bed and instead reading a book. I picked up this book by Anders when I brought up something about AI and how the search in ServiceNow seems bizarre to me. And he said he wrote about some of that in this book. And so I picked it up to read it. And I got to say, I am highly entertained. It wasn't the book I thought it was going to be. I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to learn about the path of becoming a certified master architect, or how maybe search in general can be improved, or how artificial intelligence may be set up. That all being said, I'm looking for feedback on ScredMonster. So if you can try it out, I would love to hear about what your thoughts are on it. In the extension, there's a link to send feedback to me. It opens an email. Use that, send me a message, and I'll get back to you. Have a great week.